Hospitality Meets is brought to you by RotaCloud, the staff scheduling app for hospitality teams. RotaCloud lets you create and share rotas, record attendance, and manage your team's annual leave, all in less time than it takes to make a brew. It can also make life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request holiday, and even pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be. Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is Inge Meijs, founder of Gastronomix, the inspiring recipe database for professional chefs. Coming up on today's show, Inge sets an unusual demand for Phil.
Make a choux pastry recipe right now.
Phil summarises today's chat. There's so much to unpack with this journey. And Inge recounts a particularly hairy story.
That was quite of a thing, and it sort of haunted me for, I think, 1.5 years.
All that and so much more as we chat through Inge's awesome journey so far, as well as getting some great insight into the quite marvellous platform that is Gastronomix. As always, if you're enjoying the show, please don't forget to give us a subscribe, a like and a share across your favourite social channels. Enjoy! And a huge Hospitality Meets welcome to Inge Meijs.
Good morning or afternoon. Depends on when you're listening to this, of course.
Very good. Look at you putting yourself in the shoes of the listener already.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yes, very good indeed. Where do we find you today? I would imagine that you're in the Netherlands.
Yes, I am. I'm based in the Netherlands. Today I'm at home, but normally I work at the office in a little place or a little town called Waalwijk. I suppose not many people have heard of it, but it's sort of close to Eindhoven.
Okay.
It's like an hour drive from Amsterdam and 40 minutes from Eindhoven.
Right. You've just sparked memories in my brain already. When I worked on cruise ships, I was part of the pre-opening team for the Aurora ship. And it got built in Germany and then finished off in Eemshaven.
Yeah.
In the north in February, and I don't think I've ever been more cold in my life.
It could get really cold, yeah, but it's not that different, I think, from the UK.
Yeah, no, indeed.
Yeah.
I also remember Groningen, which is probably not the pronunciation, but what a wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Jeez, right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do any more.
We do have that harsh R, yeah.
Yeah, it was what a wonderful little place it was. This is 20 odd years ago, mind, but yeah, cracking.
Yeah, Groningen is quite a drive for us. Well, in the Netherlands, everything is small, of course, and everything is doable by car within, I would say, 3 hours.
Right.
So yeah, it's tiny, but Groningen is it's a student city, a university, lots of pubs, and yeah, it's really cozy city as well.
Yeah. Now, anyway, that's not why we're here today, but nice to kind of, I suppose, talk a little bit about the country where you're based. So, just tell the world what it is that you do.
Well, my name is Inge Meijs. I'm one of the founders of Gastronomix.com, which is a recipe database online for professional chefs. And I founded that already over 12 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, ever since been building it and expanding it internationally.
Right. Okay. So, well, we'll get onto the story of that, I suppose, in the fullness of your story.
It is a great story.
I have lots of questions. So that's really, really cool. So before that, there's obviously a little bit of life, because I don't suppose you wake up one day and that's the thing that you do. There's probably a journey as to how you arrived at that.
True.
So take us all the way back, because I think your journey is not one of a typical, if there is such a thing, typical hospitality person.
Yeah, I guess that is true. Well, I grew up on a farm, a cow's farm. So that's always a good starting point, I guess, because I grew up in, I have this link with, well, food and nature and the producing food. So yeah, that was a great childhood growing up on a farm, playing outside and learning how, well, producing food in the basis works. And then I, well, grew up and I wanted to do something creative with food as well, ideally. So I started looking at all these marketing, communication, educations, and I was like, this is not really it for me. So at one point, my mom, she wanted to go to this culinary education, this green school where farmers go to, and I was like, nah, I don't want to be a farmer.
Right.
But she really wanted to go, and she was like, if you don't pick a school that you want to learn more about, we are going to visit this school. So I was like, okay, let's go. And then they told everything about this education called food design and innovation. And I was immediately triggered, like, okay, this is it. This is the combination of food and creativity and creating new things and, yeah, marketing. So yeah, I started that when I was 17, graduated when I was 21, and yeah, did fabulous internships also related to hospitality in a sense, with a company called Shoot My Food back then. It's now called Food Inspiration, which is a digital magazine for well, hospitality professionals in the Netherlands. So back then, learned everything about trends, yeah, new concepts, new restaurant concepts, and that was really really cool. And when I was 21 and graduated, I was sort of stubborn to start this one job for one company or one specific product. I wanted to do more all at once. So I started my own company and yeah,
Of course
started
you
as a
did.
freelancer. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you around because we talk a lot about on this show. The vast majority of people who come through hospitality in any form don't really know what they want to do in that
Mm,
kind of the I suppose the final years of school, when you're supposed to be making these decisions and all
yeah,
of
yeah.
that. And the question I was going to ask you was around that. Really, was there a moment where you thought, yeah, this is I'm onto something here now. This is something that I'd really like to pursue.
Yeah, for me, it was mostly I wanted to do something creative, something marketing wise. But then again, I found myself also looking at a hotel management education. And
Right,
I was also triggered by that. But for me, working in a hotel back then wasn't, well, the thing that really fitted, I guess. But now looking back, working at a hotel seems fabulous to me, to be honest. But
right.
back then it was really, yeah, I wanted to do something creative, wanted to make things, create things, and that all came together with, well, the food design and innovation course.
Yeah. Where do you think that came from? That desire to create. Is it
Yeah, good
can you
question.
pinpoint it, or is it just one of those things that you just feel you've always had in you?
Yeah, I think, well, the latter, like it's I've always been creating things and yeah, doing all kinds of hobbies and playing outside and creating jewelry, creating, I don't know, everything.
Right,
So yeah, it was quite obvious that I wanted to do something also with text and design and visuals, and yeah, really visual person, I would say.
right. Got you. Okay, so you graduated. You started your. Is this your? Do we call this your first company?
Yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started as a freelancer, so I did several jobs and projects for my previous internship companies, also some new companies, and it was mainly about food styling and creating recipes back then. So there is this chain in the Netherlands and Belgium, I believe, which is called Oil and Vinegar, and they sell all kinds of, well, olive oil types and vinegar types and yeah, nice products, herbs and spices and everything. And I was doing an internship there. And back then I started this project with creating recipe cards for in their stores. So people would buy a certain type of olive oil or a certain herb mixture. And I created this recipe with that product,
right.
for customers to start creating new dishes and try something else with the product. And that was maybe also one of the things that sort of sparked this thing with recipes and yeah, the whole visual part of it, like making those cards and making the photos and yeah, doing it from A to Z actually.
Yeah, I can totally see how that would have been the catalyst for
Yeah.
what will come.
Yeah.
Because it is, I suppose, and you know, I'm definitely one of these people that until you and I met, I would not have known that that was a side of the world.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of, we have this wonderful food product, but actually what we want to do as part of our process to entice people to try our product is kind of show them how they can
What you
get the
can
best
do
out
with
of
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
true. Yeah. Yeah, I think that if you give a chef a certain ingredient, doesn't matter if it's new or if it's just a basic ingredient like a cucumber, he or she is always going to ask the first question like, okay, thanks, but what can I do with it?
yeah,
And yeah, that answering that question is really a creative thing to do. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think it's What's the reason why the vast majority of chefs become chefs is because they want that creative freedom to be able to, you know, produce
Yeah,
things that maybe the world
definitely.
hasn't seen before, and the like.
Yeah, and always evolve on recipes from others and recipes that you've created years ago and keep perfection in them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, I think it might have been Gordon Ramsay that said this, in fact, that if you take I might just be making up Gordon Ramsay actually, but if you take a recipe that somebody else has produced and you change one thing, either a method or an ingredient within that, it becomes your recipe. That's
Yeah.
basically the principle, the thinking behind how recipes evolve.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, well, of course, there are recipes that you can relate to a certain chef or, yeah, that have been created by a certain chef. But there are so many recipes that are variants and have evolved over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're beginning to, I suppose, get this spark within you of this might be something that to look at. But how did that evolve from where we are in your story?
Well, actually, back then, just graduated from school. I was also working together with Jeroen, who is my former business partner, and he's a chef originally. And he had this idea that all of the inspiration sources were based on dishes. You've had many, or you still have many recipe websites, blogs, books that are all based on complete dishes of chefs or and chefs don't really think in dishes. They think in a more modular way in components, as we call them. Like they see a certain dish and they're like, okay, this preparation of the meat or the fish or the potato or a certain vegetable, this is interesting for me. I like this preparation. It fits my kitchen. It's appealing to my type of customers. How can I, translate it into my kitchen and use it in my kitchen? So that was something that we saw with chefs if we spoke to them or if we asked them about it. And back then, we created this dummy book with all those components, with all those recipes in it. So we took an ingredient, let's say potato, and we created 10 or 15 recipes with potato. And that varied from, the perfectly cooked potato to a more, I don't know, modern way of preparing potato, like a paper of truffle potato, or maybe a
Ooh.
fermented potato, or the perfect mousseline of potato, and yeah, all those kinds of preparations that you can use when you have a potato. And when chefs saw that book that we made, they were sort of getting crazy, like, okay, I want to have this. It doesn't matter how much it cost me, I want to have this book. So that got us thinking, like, okay, should we publish this book? And then I was the one to say like, okay, yeah, we can make this book, but then we have to make another one and another one and another one to keep sort of, active with it, and share all those ideas that are constantly coming up. And so then I said, why shouldn't we do it online, and create a digital platform, and then we can publish a new recipe every day, every hour, every week, as much as we want. So yeah, that was sort of the starting points back in 2012, 11. That got us working on the business plan.
Right, and here we are. So that's the end of your story. Thanks very much, Inge. It's been good to chat. Yeah, Well, but I think this is one of the joys of business and entrepreneurialism, isn't it? Is that you never know when that idea is just going to hit you.
True.
But it's one thing to have the idea, but it's another thing to then start taking the steps to put it into action.
And also to validate it with a few customers, or in our case, a few chefs, and to see if your feeling, your idea is also valid within your target audience.
Yeah, because I suppose as well, it's one thing to get that early interest level in your book, which kind of is proof of concept, I suppose, in terms of this is something that people are interested in. But it's then, how do you take that initial seed interest from a select few people and turn it into something that becomes the must-have thing that people must have in their business?
Yeah, that's a gradual process, I guess. So we started, well, of course, first with the business plan for it, like how can we make this into a profitable business in the end. And we started talking to web designers, we started talking to more chefs. And back then it was quite clear that we had to make it into a subscription business. And I think that's quite unique, because back then, we're talking 2011, 2012, paying for content on the internet wasn't as accepted as it is nowadays.
Right.
So back then, Netflix was still not in the Netherlands, and I guess also not in the UK. Spotify was just getting his foot on the ground in the Netherlands. So people were still sort of downloading music and downloading films and everything. And we started this recipe platform that you had to pay for to access the recipes. So at first, it was quite difficult to explain that to people. And of course, we had to prove the quality of the recipes.
Yeah.
Because, chefs were like, but I can find everything on Google. Why should I pay for Gastronomix? Which is a good question.
Yeah.
And the unique thing is that every recipe that goes on Gastronomix is tried and tested in our own test kitchen. So we have a chef working for us right now, because back in the days, it was my business partner who was doing all the cooking, and it was me doing all the photography. But now we have a chef and a photographer and people working with us, of course. But so every recipe is tried and tested, and that is, of course, for chefs, it saves them so much time and also food waste, to not have to try every recipe multiple times in their own kitchen, but they can trust the recipes on Gastronomix.
Yeah. We've cut out quite a bit of the story, I think.
We jumped into it. Yeah.
So take us back to, I suppose, the natural timeline of things. You did say at the beginning that there are some stories through the formulation of business. There always are. So you have this now. You've got this subscription based model in play. How did it start building out from there?
I think the first year we launched in April 2012. And to be honest, we were so unsure of how it would take off. We had this network of chefs in the Netherlands, and we've even handwritten letters to every Michelin-starred chef in the Netherlands to inform them about our initiative and to sort of start this relation with the top of the market. And yeah, it took off really, really nicely. So we saw all the top chefs, the top restaurants. They became a member from within a few weeks after launching, and they have been our ambassadors ever since. So we were really, really lucky, and of course very grateful to have such a positive start and to be accepted by the hospitality industry and the restaurant industry in the Netherlands back then. And yeah, I think it's also because Gastronomix is, of course, we are a commercial company, but we're absolutely there to help the chef in his or her creative process. Creativity is also something that's, I don't know, more on the soft side of things. Like, we're not this, I don't know, this digital technology that helps you save money and is asking you to do all these things. And yeah, we're sort of on the soft side and helping chefs in their creative process. So it's fun to use Gastronomix. It's inspiring to use Gastronomix. So I guess that is definitely one of the reasons that we took off quite nicely in the first year. If I recall it correctly, we had over 700 subscribers in the first 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was really, the top of the market knew how to find us. And to give a bit of context, also flash forward to now, to nowadays, it's we have over 33,000 users right now.
Brilliant. Right.
Yeah.
And that's
so
your reach is global, European, or
we focus on the Netherlands, Belgium, and the UK
Right.
mainly, but we also do marketing activities throughout Europe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, the world is your oyster yet, right? So
It is, yeah, definitely, yeah. There's
yeah,
still so much to discover, and it's interesting because chefs are, apart maybe from Asia, because kitchens work a little bit different there. But yeah, where the kitchen has a French background, yeah, gastronomics can be used.
right. So in terms of what you have from within your database, as it were, within your database of content, we'll call it for the sake of ease. So if a chef is listening to this and going, I wonder what it is, like, how is this going to add value to what I am doing at the moment? Does it serve as it's not? It's basically it's a series in lots of different parts of cookery, whereby you have fundamental recipes, you've got some modern ways of doing things, and you've just got lots of different ways of doing, much like you had back in your first book with the potato, as
definitely,
it were. So it's the same principle, and it's so a chef would have a spark of a creative idea, and they could go into your content and, I suppose, start to visually put that idea together without,
definitely,
as you say, having to run through 100 different versions of a recipe.
Yeah, and I think there are a few use cases, and to mention some of them. It could be that a chef has tasted a fabulous flavor combination somewhere else, maybe at a colleague restaurant, and he wants to do something with that. Well, then you can go on to Gastronomix and search for those flavors and combine them into a dish. It could also be that, for instance, now salmon is on sale and you want to put it on your daily menu or your weekly menu, but you have no idea what to do with salmon. You just have to have this idea right now. Well, go onto the platform, search for salmon, and you have, many, many ideas at your fingertips. And one of the other things, also many students, culinary students in the Netherlands are working with Gastronomix. And one of the funniest and nicest things that a student once told us was, like, he was in the kitchen working for his chef, and the chef shouted something like, "Okay, make a choux pastry recipe right now because we need it." And this student was completely stressed out, like, choux pastry. Oh my God, how does it go? I just complete blackout. And he grabbed his phone, looked the recipe up, and sort of saved his ass by Gastronomix.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And is now running the pass on that in that kitchen.
Yeah, probably, yeah. So that are a few use cases, I guess, and there are many, many more. But yeah, it's and also on Gastronomix, if you have a recipe, we always give you the amount of the recipe. So, for instance, a dressing recipe is 5 liters, or so you can really easily calculate it back to what you need. We give you all the information on allergens and dietary wishes, and we give you suggestions on how to combine all those components. And also, back then in 2012, when we launched the platform, we launched it with 250 components, mainly of fruit and vegetables, because we still think that there is a lot of creativity to gain. And right now we have, on the Dutch platform, we have over 5,500 components.
Right.
And we're still translating a lot into English, but we're almost there. The same amount is almost there.
5-star hospitality means having the right people in the right place at the right time, and that's exactly where RotaCloud can help. RotaCloud is the online platform that makes planning rotas, recording attendance, and managing annual leave easy. Its simple, drag-and-drop interface lets you create and share rotas with your team in minutes, while our built-in budgeting tools mean you'll know exactly how much you're spending on staffing before sending the rota out. RotaCloud also makes life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request time off, and pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to take you back again because I appreciate that I also instigated this leap forward back to where we are. But in the fullness of your story, we were at a point whereby you'd launched 9 months in, 700 users. How did things progress from there? Because I think anybody who's listening to this who has an interest in entrepreneurialism, I think it's really interesting to hear somebody's journey who's taken, an idea and actually built it into something really meaningful.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a 12-year process in there, and it doesn't just happen overnight most of the time.
No, totally not. Yeah. It's I think that from the beginning of, I would say one of the things that I would do way better now that I have the experience is not trying to explain every little detail of what you do or what Gastronomix has to offer. So yeah, be short in and concise and really candid about what you do and what you solve, which problem that you solve. And that's also a thing, like we were so enthusiastic about Gastronomix and what we had to offer and how complex it was and how much love and effort that we put into it, that we wanted to tell everyone everything about it. But in the end of the day, chefs just want to know what you solve, which problem that you solve for them.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that I definitely learned and would do differently now. And also, you start out doing everything yourself. Like I mentioned, my former business partner, he was the chef, so he was cooking all those recipes. He was testing all of them. Of course, we were working together with a lot of chefs around us for, ideation and getting all the ideas and gathering recipes. I was doing photography. I was writing down all the recipes. I was maintaining the platform, working together with developers. Yeah. So it's a lot of hard work in the early years. And you have to be willing to put in all those hours to get something off the ground. And if you really believe in it and you collect the right people, you gather the right people around you, then something really beautiful can happen.
I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Is that one, it starts with the belief. If you don't have that in the first place, there's no point in carrying on.
No, you can't do it halfway. Absolutely not.
Yeah, especially starting out when you have to educate the world to something that they've never seen before.
Yeah, that is also a very complicated thing, I guess. Like if you're starting, well, a restaurant, and of course, still you want to explain what makes your restaurant different from all the others, but still people will know, okay, you're a restaurant. But for Gastronomix, it was really different. Like your website, we have to pay for it. You do recipes, but not dishes. There was a lot to explain, but yeah, looking back, we could have done it in a more efficient way, I think. But that's also the beauty of, well, the years of experience.
Yeah. Did you have through the growth period? Was there any point where you're thinking, right, we need this to happen, otherwise we don't have a business going forward? Were there any moments where you thought, God, what are we doing? Those kind of things that kind of the questions that start appearing in your head.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, I think in 2014 or 15, I think 14, we translated a whole lot of the websites to English. So not all the recipes, but the website was completely accessible in English. And back then we had this naive idea that if we would launch that platform in English, it would take off just like that.
Right, just by doing that.
Yeah, just launching it and seeing what happens. But no, that was really, really naive. And we hired some PR companies across the globe, so in the US, in Australia, I don't know, in the UK as well. And we thought, okay, if we do some good press releases, and if we have our social media on point, and we're really active on social media, something will eventually happen, and we're going to see where it sort of starts to happen first. But that was, yeah, again, really naive. But it was also a good, a good lesson. Like, okay, you still have to work hard, and maybe it's even harder when it's not your own country and you don't have the network around you. So yeah, we sort of took a step back, like, okay, what can we do still in the Netherlands? What can we achieve here? And that was, for us, that was the culinary institutes, so educational market. So we took a step back, and we reached out to all kinds of culinary schools in the Netherlands. And well, long story short, right now we have 40 schools working with Gastronomix in the Netherlands, and one in Belgium as well. And we're talking to a few in the UK. And yeah, so all those guys and girls from 17 years old, they are working with Gastronomix and trained with Gastronomix. So that has had a huge impact as well on, well, of course, the business, because it's a new market, it's a new target group. And it also gave us the stability to then expand further into, well, the world, and expand towards the UK.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack with this journey. It's like the more we talk about it, the more I am having my questions answered, but there's more questions coming up. We're going to be
this
here
is
for 4
not
hours.
getting shorter.
Yeah. But I love it. I absolutely love it, because it's also, you're now kind of molding the minds of the future chefs. For want of a better phrase, that's just a really, maybe even an accidental byproduct of maybe not in your original thinking around why this exists.
It was not in our original business plan, but it was quite shortly after we launched it. I think within a few months, the biggest culinary school in the Netherlands, which is close to our head office, and well, we had a relationship already with the principal over there. He reached out, and he was like, "Okay, this is looking to be awesome. This is going to be big among chefs, and I want our students to, well, get trained with it and learn about it as well." And we adjusted the platform to it to better reach the demands of the students as well. So one of the things that we added to Gastronomix is also product knowledge and knowledge pages and information about cooking techniques, for example. And yeah, that are fabulous pieces of content that are also used by chefs in the field as a source, as a resource.
Yeah, absolutely. Your content is very visual, I am assuming.
Yeah, we have a picture with every recipe, and it's because it's tried and tested in our kitchen. We can take a picture of every recipe that we upload.
Yeah, I remember I had I don't know if you know a chef called Phil Howard in the UK here. He's an absolute legend of the industry here. He was on the show a few weeks back, and we were talking about the world was kind of waiting for his cookbooks to come out. His elite level cookbooks. We're not talking about your average everyday domestic kitchen cookbook, but nevertheless, I think because he had such a reputation and such a respect of ingredients and flavor, that when his books launched, the world went crazy for them over here, because it was like, yes, this is exactly what we've been waiting for. But I remember talking to him about that, and for him, the most important part of that was the visual element. He said, because if you, and this is maybe a different, because you're dealing with professional kitchens, but nevertheless, if you're producing a recipe for somebody to follow and you don't have a visual element to that, then they've got to make that up in their head as to what that actually looks like.
You want to see, especially as a chef, I think, what the end result is, what the texture is. So our photos are really clean, minimalistic. There's not much food styling going around. There are just beautiful plates with, the product, the recipe on it. And most of the time the photos are really zoomed in, so you can see the texture, and you can, you know what the end result has to look like. And that's obviously, really helpful for the chef.
Yeah, absolutely. 12 years of business, there must be some disasters in there, or the moments that you look back on and go, God, what were we thinking?
Yeah. Well, one of the things is that also a year in, we thought there is still so much to learn for chefs about the creative process. Like, you can structure the creative process in the kitchen. It's not a thing that just happens after service, that you're creative and you start thinking of new things. You can stimulate it with a good process. So we decided to make a book about the culinary process of creativity. And well, it was fabulous. I still remember the last week before it before it went to the printer. I think I only ate Chinese takeout, and it was crazy, the all-nighters that we pulled to get it together. But that was fun, I would say. But then we got the books, and they were amazing. They sold out really quickly, which was also fantastic, of course. I think we had 3,500 printed back then, and they sold out within a few weeks. So we ordered a new batch of books, and then somewhere our printer, they went bankrupt.
Right. Great.
But they sort of tried to. They had this. I don't know. They had this pile of paper in their storage, which was low quality, bad quality to say so. And they still decided to sort of print our book without discussing it on the lower quality paper. And we got those delivered without any notice. And we promised our users, our customers, those books. They were in back order already, but the quality wasn't good. So that was quite of a thing, and it sort of haunted me for, I think, 1.5 years, because
right, I was going to say 10 years.
No, 1.5 years, because there was a curator, and it was awful. But in the end of the day, it was all solved, and people were happy, but had to wait a little bit longer for their books. But that was one of the things that you. That you are reminded to have contracts and put things on paper, and we had that, so that was good. But it was quite a thing back then.
I think that is just that's just something that can happen in business, though, right? Your people who you work with, you never know really fully the pressure that they're under. And then in a situation like that, if they're really struggling to make ends meet, they are in a super stressed place, and they will make mistakes and do things that they shouldn't do. And
exactly. Yeah.
God, yeah. Well, there was a story you wrote down actually, which did make me chuckle, which was about your driving around escapades in your branded car.
Yeah, that's really funny. And I also have to chuckle about it myself every time I think of it. Yeah, it was in the early years of the company, and I was having this little car, which I branded with stickers of Gastronomix. So it was funny because, yeah, people waving at me, and it was nice. But then at some point, I was driving in Amsterdam on the highway, and this huge car, luxurious Mercedes, like one of the biggest ones you can think of, was sort of flashing his lights and honking, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? Do I have my alarm lights on, or do I have a flat tire? Or I was sort of stressed out, like I'm doing something wrong here. And then at some point I thought, this is, what an asshole is this? What an idiot is this? What is he doing? Why? And then the car came driving next to me, and sort of slowed down. So it kept driving
God,
next to me.
I'd be stressed now.
Yeah, and I was like, what is this person doing? And I looked next to me, and then there was, with a big smile and wave and laughing really, really hard, there was 3 Michelin-starred chef Jonny Boer and his wife, Therese from de Libreien in the Netherlands, which are huge fans and ambassadors of Gastronomix. But yeah, I was laughing so hard because he was just bullying me and laughing about it. And I felt really, really famous at that point. Like, oh my God, the best chef of the Netherlands has recognized me driving here. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's cool though, isn't it? Actually, in the end,
It
it's
is.
cool.
Yeah, in the end.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, because as you say, you've got one of the highest profile chefs in the Netherlands
Yeah.
who knows who you are, and so it's
Yeah,
almost
and
like,
it's funny because or it's a good story as well, because of course when we launched Gastronomix, we, as I said, we wrote handwritten letters to all Michelin-starred chefs, and we really wanted to, well, have a chat with Jonny about Gastronomix. We made a reservation in the restaurant, and we kindly asked to have 15 minutes of his time to just tell him about Gastronomix, and nothing commercial, just explain it to him and see what he thinks, have his opinion about it. And then, well, we got the chance, and he saw it, and the first thing that he said, I will never forget, was, I really wished I had built this myself.
oh wow,
So that's a
yeah,
big compliment, right?
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and then, well, we stayed in contact, and he became, well, a true fan and ambassador. And a few years ago, he decided that he wanted to share 100 of his recipes on Gastronomix. So if you go to the platform and you look for Jonny, then you see, I think, 110 or 112 recipes by Jonny Boer. And the reason for him to do so was that he really wants his, well, culinary legacy, his vision, his ideas to trickle down to the students nowadays, and to help, well, the cooking culture, or the culinary culture, eating culture in the Netherlands and beyond. And yeah, he's not able to give guest lessons on each culinary school. So he decided that Gastronomix was a good space for him to share his thoughts and his vision.
That's super cool. That's super
Yeah,
cool.
we're really, really honored.
Yeah, and I think equally it's super cool on his behalf as well, that he's felt that way. He's felt that this is the I suppose the principle of giving back, right? Which I think comes to everybody who cares about the industry at some point.
Yeah.
And he's seen the value in your platform to be able to get to a wider audience, I guess, than, as you say, if he was to go and do guest sittings, and that would take him forever to get around everywhere.
He doesn't have any time for that. So this is a good way to digitalize his his legacy, I would say. And yeah, we're truly honored to have him. And I don't want to name drop everyone, but there are many great other chefs also sharing
Feel free. It's
their
fine.
ideas. Yeah. Well, to name a few from the UK, Ayo Adeyemi, Tom Booton, Adam Handling, Gareth Ward, Nathan Davies, Luc French, all fabulous chefs. And they've been amazing. And well, they're all sharing about 30 recipes each on the platform. So it really gives you a good insight into their kitchen and their cooking style as well. And of course, for our chef, it's, well, as Luc French mentioned, he has the best job in the world because he's getting all those recipes from, well, fantastic chefs and getting a peek into their kitchen and testing all the recipes and preparing them for the photo shoot and video shoots.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super fun to do and great to see all those various cooking styles and ideas.
Yeah, I think it also speaks volumes for people who jump into something like that they just have like unashamed confidence in their own capability and and what they're producing. But two, I can show the world this, and they're going to be able to take this on, and maybe somebody takes that on to the next level. But that's how we ultimately we rise through that collaboration, rather than being very guarded and saying that's mine and nobody else gets it.
Yeah. I would say that back in 2012, when we started, more chefs were like, no, this is my recipe. You can't have it. But now everybody is really open, transparent. And I think that's also partly because of social media. Like, our chefs like showing what they are doing, what they are capable of. And in the end of the day, it's if you share your recipes in a modular way, like we do at Gastronomix, then you don't copy each other, you evolve on each other's ideas. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, absolutely. What's next? You've already kind of alluded to the fact that you have expanded into the UK. Well, you've not alluded to it. You are. You're doing it, especially with the names that you've just dropped there as well. So how are you moving forward from here?
Yeah, good one. Well, as I mentioned, Gastronomix really started out as this inspiring recipe platform. And for the last year, I would say, we are really still uploading new recipes every week or every few days. And we're also cautious about making the platform even smarter. So like I mentioned, we recently added all those information about allergens and dietary wishes. One of the next things is that we're making the platform even smarter by adding more information about flavor combinations, for instance, but also making it possible for chefs to upload their own components. And then one way would be to upload them for yourself. So that it would be your recipe database with your own recipes combined with the recipes of Gastronomix, which will be forever growing and inspiring. And maybe also in the future that you could choose to publicly share your components as well, so that it really gives a boost in sharing that knowledge among colleagues from anywhere in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, look, I'm a foodie, so I think what you've done absolutely speaks to that side of my brain for sure. I'm in hook, line, and sinker, and even just as a domestic chef, I mean, I could take great value in taking lessons in my own time from some of the greatest chefs around Europe.
Yeah, we focus in our marketing activities. We focus on professional chefs, but there are definitely some fanatic amateur chefs that know how to find
fanatic
Gastronomix.
Amateur. Yes, that's my new branding for me. I am a fanatic amateur for sure. No, great stuff. If anybody's listening to this and is completely inspired by either your journey or actually the business itself, what's the best way for them to reach out to you to learn more or get involved?
Well, I'm really approachable on LinkedIn. I always find it interesting to connect with people and to discuss topics regarding gastronomics or recipes or the hospitality industry in general. If you want to know more about gastronomics, then go to gastronomix.com. You'll find, I guess, all the information there. But there's also a chat button which you can use if you have specific questions. And that's also a great way to connect with me as well.
Fantastic. How big is your company now in terms of headcount? How many people do you have?
My team is about 7 people right now, and well, we work with a lot of freelancers as well and a digital agency. But yeah, it's still, I think, a good size of a team, a compact size of a team, and we're really, yeah, everybody is so. We are all foodies, and everybody is so connected to helping the chef in their creative process. So that's awesome, and it's a really I'm really proud of my team as well.
Yeah. Did you ever think that when you were formulating the idea in your head, or even before then, did you ever think that you'd end up being like at the helm of something so cool? And actually, you've created this. I don't want to say all on your own, but you have created this thing from scratch that's now hugely respected.
Yeah. To be honest, I was 21 years old. I wasn't really thinking about the impact that it would have on, I don't know, my life, or that I would be doing this for 12 years and longer. I just jumped on the train because I believed in it, and I just wanted to make something and create it. And I didn't really think about the consequences, but I liked jumping on that train and seeing where it would bring me.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute joy to chat to you as well, especially because for me, it gives more insight into the fact that hospitality is so vast and actually it has so many elements to it, and some that even still to this day, despite the fact that I've been now having these conversations for 3.5 years, there's still new stories out there that make me go, yeah, well, that's still it's a hugely important part of the industry. And moreover, I think, people can take inspiration from your story as well, because, you started the business at the age of 21. Like, I think about who I was at 21 years old. I think I always knew that I was going to start a business, but at that age, I was not ready, for sure.
No. Yeah. And I think it was partly stubbornness, I guess, that my entrepreneurial journey started off so early. And to link back to the hospitality industry, it wasn't like, or it's maybe not that average, or there are so many suppliers, I would say, or businesses connected to the hospitality industry. That's beyond what you can think of, I guess. And
it's all interlinked. You can't deliver a bar service without drinks, right? You can't have the drinks if somebody's not willing to make them. And so it's the same principle.
So many connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Inge, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real joy to chat, and I wish you all the very best. It sounds like you don't need me to wish you all the very best. You're heading in the right direction. But
thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure to have this chat, and also to maybe for myself go through all the memories and the storyline again. It's also fun to talk about.
Yeah, well, you've done books in other domains. I think everybody's got a book in them for sure with their stories, especially entrepreneurs and the crazy stuff that you have to do to make ends meet at the beginning, and
who knows that someday.
Yeah, absolutely, fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Phil.
Take care. And there we have it, a totally unique career built by Inge, and what a world-class service they are offering. It's another wonderful insight into the varied career that hospitality can offer. We'll be back as usual at 8 p.m. next Wednesday for another story from hospitality, so until then, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.